Welcome to another episode in the Caracruiser series. This episode is going to be about the engine troubles that we've had and the maiden voyage. Thanks to everyone who subscribed so far. If you haven't already, get yourself subscribed because there's some mad stuff coming. There's going to be one more episode before you're up to speed and we're at the current day. Thanks to everyone for your support.
The trailer was tatty and rusty when I got it, so I took the opportunity to remove and inspect it. Removing the cruiser from its trailer is easier said than done though. If I floated it off the trailer, I'd need somewhere to keep it, which I didn't have. I didn't know how long I needed off the trailer and what I would find. I'm lucky enough to have a father-in-law with a load-all. The trailer mounts right into the hull. It doesn't just lift off. There's a locating pin that sits right into the hull at the back. This keeps the overall height low, so the cruiser's easy to get in and out of at campsites, and it keeps the whole thing stable when it's on land. Now at this point I wasn't fully aware of how it was attached. We were just working out what's what and making it up as we went along. The solution turned out to be resting it on some blocks or some big lumps of oak. Then once the trailer had dropped at the front, putting another strap between the hull and the trailer. The cruiser could then be lifted higher and allow the trailer to be pulled out and away. It is possible to beach without a worry of falling over because it doesn't have much of a keel. I gave it a good rock to make sure it was stable and put a bit more oak underneath there to be sure. The trailer is a very simple T-bar shape with unbraked 750 kilo axles. I had the trailer blasted and coated in red oxide. I think it was Foster's, Longtown. I then threw some paint on it. The white was an aerosol I had left over from another project, and the black was a hammerite sort of enamel kind of thing. It's lasted pretty well so far, and a decent amount of grease along the main part of the T helps the hull slide along the trailer. I also fitted some rollers to spread the weight and assist with getting it on and off the trailer. Once it was back on the trailer, it was back to base in Sussex. The Transom's been chopped about a bit in the past. I'm not quite sure what for, but I needed a strong flat surface to mount the engine to. I used some composite offcuts and pieced together what I thought would be adequate at the time. We used a few plies of fiberglass at the bottom so the bigger plate was bonding to a nice flat surface. Once that was cured, I trimmed the fiberglass back and painted the plate white to match the rest of the transom. Okay, now it's time to talk about engines. The Cruiser came with two engines, a very old Volvo Penta air-cooled two-stroke, which I think was about 3 or 4 horsepower, and a 5 horsepower Honda 4-stroke. They were included in the sale as untested, but they both ran well with the service. I sold the Honda to raise funds and scoured the internet for some time to try and get hold of an outboard around the 30 to 40 mark. It was originally meant to have between 7.5 and 35 horsepower two-stroke, but obviously I want some more. My theory was, as long as I didn't go too much heavier than a 1970s 35 horsepower, then I shouldn't get into too much trouble. I eventually ended up with this Evinrude 60 that was advertised as running but needing TLC. So I tarted up the engine cowling, put some new stickers on, changed the water pump impeller and the seals, and bolted it together. With a new ignition barrel, it ran, although it seemed a little sluggish in the lower RPMs.
Yeah.
We took it down to Chichester Harbour and it ran for a moment but then refused to fire. And we just kept on trying and turning it over until the battery was flat. I took the carburetors apart and found this. Silicon sealant. I'm not against using this, but only in moderation. This is excessive and potentially not even oil resistant. You can see it sort of smushing on my fingers. thorough clean out and it was running again. You can see the VRO reservoir on the right there. It's a common thing in 80s two-strokes. It means that the mixture of oil can be varied depending on engine speed. It stands for variable ratio oiling and was fitted from engines from 1984 onwards. Most people just delete this system and pre-mix the oil with the petrol, but seeing as it existed and seemed to be working, I wanted to keep that part of it. Anyway, it was running, so back to Chichester. Once again, failure. I fitted new floats to the carburetors, replaced one ignition coil and leads and spark plugs, and it ran. Then it didn't run anymore. This time I took the reeds out, which in fact did have some small gaps, which I reseated and then cleaned the carbs again. Now it ran even better than it ever had, much better than it ever had. Fitted the auxiliary motor just in case, and we went to Itchner. Once again, as soon as the motor was in the water, it wasn't interested in running. It was at this point I did what anyone sensible would do, got a loan out and bought a 2016 Honda BF50. It had high hours on it, which made it affordable. And shout out to Pace Marine in Aldershot. Now I was feeling confident. It was time to hit the water for real. This was the maiden voyage, slow and steady to start with. This is Jack, by the way. You might have spotted him when we were reinforcing the Transom. He has a lot more experience with boating rules and regulations and general etiquette of the water. Chichester Harbour is quite calm and protected compared to the rest of the coastline, although a little more adventurous than perhaps the Caracruiser was originally intended for. confidence, opened up the engine a bit more to see what it could do, but couldn't really get past about 10 knots. There's still plenty of room for improvement at this point, and the hull efficiency is poor, especially at this speed. This is wind against tide. It makes short, sharp chop, which was quite alarming because you could feel it through the floor.
The camera will smooth this out so much, it'll make it look great.
Probably.
We'll be like, oh, what are you worrying about?
There's still a massive amount of spray though off the front. Also, I'm sure you'll still be able to see the difference between the horizon and the here we go. See? Oh! Oh! Oh my, they're getting worse.
Yeah. It's coming over the roof.
I don't know if I should be going faster. Caracruiser, Sealand Night, heading out to sea.
The wake, as you can see, is really rough and turbulent, which must be wasting a lot of energy. So you'll see me work on ways to try and smooth that out, probably in the next episode. So after a successful and really enjoyable trip, I plan to visit back up north to see the in-laws and take them for a trip out on the water in the Lake District.